Hey, listen, guys, let me tell you something, right? I'm not supposed to remember how many you're supposed to remember. I took a lot of shots.
And that leads I can't even introduce him yet. Gerry Cooney's professional boxing career was marked by exhilarating fights, exciting wins, and a powerful left hook, which I think he gave me earlier today. Gerry has written a must-read book entitled Gentleman Gerry, A Contender in the Ring, A Champion in Recovery. It is an honor to welcome Gerry Cooney to the clubhouse.
Nice. Thanks, guys. Great to be with you guys too, always. And
Gerry, tell us a little bit about the book first. And we have but it's a great book. I got a chance to spin through a little bit of it. Tell us why you decided to write the book.
I got to tell you something. Well, I think I needed to get it out. I had done a lot of work. You guys knew I had stopped drinking back in May 21st, 1988. And I've done a lot of work about my life, what caused certain things to go on, how I got lost for a while. I lost my track. I got distracted and came back. And I wrote a lot about that to help me not continue on that path of drinking. But, a couple of guys got a hold of me and we talked about it. And I thought, well, you know what? It can't be bad to relive it again. And I got to relive it. It was like about 5 years' time. We did this book. And I just thought the story needed to be told. I was ready. I felt great. I made my mistakes. I fell down. I got up. I moved on. I dusted my pants off. And I'm out with a book. Came out with a book and had a very successful career. I was ranked #1 in the world. I was close to beating Larry Holmes for the championship. And, who knows? Had I won the championship that night, I probably wouldn't be around now. Life was so fast and so crazy for me.
Well, I got to tell you, so and each part of the book, the reader's given a really cool insight. Now, he breaks it down. You have chapters, and there's parts in the book. And in part 3, you mentioned the walk in the dressing room,
wow, entering
the ring. Tell our audience about that, Gerry, because that's pretty cool.
I got to tell you that in my gym, I have a gym in Scotch Plains called Gerry Cooney's Boxing Academy, and I have a photograph of me. And you got the pictures now. I'm fighting Kenny Norton in the garden. I'm a young kid. I'm 23. And you get a knock on the door. And the guy opens the door and says, Cooney, you're next. And your life kind of passes right before you in that minute. And then you got a long walk from that dressing room into the stadium. And the first half of that walk is kind of like you're trying butterflies, nerves, everything's going on. You get halfway to the ring and you hear the crowd. And you wake up and you become alive. And that's a man that not too many people have got a chance to deal with, that kind of guy. And I'm sure all athletes go through it. It's the walk of my life. And I couldn't wait for the bell to ring. Once the bell rang, I had to fight.
Gerry, okay, Dave Torromeo here. Sorry, Mark, but I grew up on Long Island as well. I grew up in Lindenhurst. I was a big Joe Frazier fan as a kid. And then we were all big Gerry Cooney fans because you're from Huntington. And, obviously rooted for you. And I guess my question is really, how does a kid from Huntington, because we played all sports and we tried to box, after the 76 Olympics and all that success of that Olympic team, we tried to box in our backyards. And my dad was actually a Golden Gloves boxer as well as, and I know you were, but how do you get into boxing on Long Island?
It's really funny what you said in 1976. I got invited to the finals of the Olympic trials. That's where the top 8 guys go to Colorado Springs and fight it out. I just came back from Europe with the USA team. I knocked everybody out. I came back. They told me the Russians would come and stay in shape. They called me 6 days before the fight. Meanwhile, I was drinking with my buddies. And they told me I'm fighting the 3rd-ranked Russian. And I went out that night, and I hit him on the chin and knocked him dead. And thank God, because I wasn't in that great a shape. And I got the phone call that I made it to the finals of Olympic trials. That I want to go. And I said, I'm sorry. I really can't make it. My father's sick. And he said, you sure, Gerry? This is the finals of the Olympic trials. 3 times he told me that. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to be able to go. I'm sorry. My father's going to stay with my family. He said, you sure? He hung up the phone. And that was 10% true. 90% was I hated my father. My father beat me all the time. 90% was I didn't have the self-esteem. I'm not good enough. I can't make it. Why am I going to go make an ass of myself? And those are the mistakes I want to help change in guys today. How I became a fighter was that, listen, in my house, it was there was a lot of, my father was an angry man, worked hard, had 6 children, grew up with a wife, and he took most of his frustrations out on the boys. And so my brother left the house when he was 15, And then a couple of years later, he started going to a gym, Huntington Recreation. And I could follow him there and watch him a couple of days a week because I loved him. And then I put the gloves on. I put the gloves on, hit the bag, and I said, let me box somebody. And they put me in there with this little tank. I would kick my ass that night. And I threw the gloves off, threw them on the floor, went home, said, forget, I'm not doing this. But the next day I went down in the basement, I hit the gloves again and hit the bag. And I went back to the gym at 15 and a half. And they asked if I could box that kid again. And that kid couldn't do that to me again. And then 6 months later, I won the middleweight title. And I guess it was the rage. And when I was to find out later on in my life that boxing helped me to express how angry I was for what was going on in my household. And then they put my picture in the paper. After every fight, I'd go to the newsstand and my picture was on the back page of the Daily News. So it made me somebody. That was kind of a long answer.
No, it's good.
And a good answer. Gerry, Rob here. We cannot understand what it's like to have a moment in the Garden. And you fought in the Garden, and that was over quickly. What's it like to have that moment on one of the great stages in the world, honestly?
Listen, when I was 16, I was in the finals of the Golden Gloves in Madison Square Garden. And they turned the lights off, and you're standing in the corner, and they put the spotlight on you, and my legs were shaking. But like always, once the bell rings, just nothing. I don't got to think about nothing. I just got to fight. But when I'm fighting Kenny Norton, or I call him Mendingo, I mean, he just had lost to Holmes 3 years earlier. He was a beast, and I was in probably the best shape of my life that night. Had I fought Holmes that night, I think I could have beat Holmes. Even though, listen, Holmes was a great champion. He had so much experience. But get back to fighting in the Garden, Kenny Norton. Wow. I grew up there. I fought so many times in the Garden, and it was my home. It was my home court. It was my home court. It was nothing better than fighting in the Garden. I love Madison Square Garden. I got to tell you a story. I still go to the Garden, to the Rangers and the Knicks and different fights, and a lot of people that worked when I was there, that worked there, they're still there, and we're like family. It's crazy. It's great.
So I like, and I was reading the book, Gerry. It's like, you have this great interaction with your co-author, John Grady. And, that he would say in the writing process, and he would talk a little bit about, how you and he got along. So tell our audience a little bit about that whole crazy thing, because he was like, wow, I'm actually hanging out with Gerry Cooney. As we're pretty excited tonight hanging out with you, but his writing process was interesting in the book.
Let me tell you something. He never got in the ring with me, that coward. He's a coward. He never got in the ring with me. Oh, we had a great time. We hooked up. I wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but I got to express what happened. He asked great questions. He did a lot of research, way too much research, and we got to go through it, and I got to experience it again and grow from that again. And it was a very powerful moment for me in my life. There was ups and downs. There was sadness. There was joy. And the funny, great part about it, I got a great family. Three beautiful children. Man, it is the greatest thing in the world. I made it. Like I remember the story, like I would get up and get dressed and walk down the street and fall in the hole. And I banged up my arm. I got up, went about my day. The next day I got up, I got dressed, I walked down the street, I fell in the hole. I banged my leg up. I got up, I went about my day. Next day I got up, I got dressed, I walked down the street. I had to find a different way to go. And that's in the book. I found a different way to go. And I don't go in the hole no more. And I found how to ask the question. And, first time I went to a place that when they were stopping drinking, I heard somebody say, can you help me? And I thought, wow, you can say that here? And I've been asking that question ever since. And you know what? Anytime you ask that question, there's always someone that answers. I want to fight you now. What are we talking about?
You mentioned the book, and that's what I was going to ask you about. Your recovery from addiction, but also going the distance. And now today, going the distance means a whole different thing than when you were in boxing days.
And I was always not allowed to feel. Growing up, I hid my emotions. I was trying to make believe. I was so frightened kid. And through the life process and the experience I had, I traveled the world a couple of times. I went to a party once in Las Vegas, Nevada at Caesar's Palace. Everybody I ever wanted to meet was at that party that night for me, for myself and Larry Holmes. And from Jack Nicklaus, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Muhammad Ali, Wayne Gretzky, you can't imagine all the actors, just amazing. And so those were great experiences for me. And by the way, I also want to tell you that, listen, Larry Holmes and I are the best of friends today. We are, I think I sent you a picture. I don't know if you got it. I put it on your phone. But we are the best of friends. We hated each other. I didn't like him much. He didn't like me much. But when we finally got in the ring that night, we fought it out. And he was a little better than me. He had so much experience that I didn't know anything about. I was a puncher. And so since that fight's over, we travel all year long. We get together. We visit our families. And great time.
Okay, so tell our audience, 2 more things. First of all, I have to ask you, we have a couple minutes out. Howard Cosell.
Yeah, man.
Tell me about Howard Cosell. You had an interview with him.
Man, I had an interview with him. I used to travel with him. I was on the Battle of the Network Stars. He made me the commissioner. And I'd been out to his house in the Hamptons. He was at his house bitching about Dick Young. And his beautiful wife, Emmy, said to him, "Oh, yeah? Well, why do you read him every day?" Right? And he was the greatest guy in the world. Let me tell you something. I could tell you some great stories about him. He told me, "Gerry, I am ABC." And he was at that time. And obviously he lost his wife and he got a little sick and he came out with a book and whatever that was. I didn't really even pay attention to it. I loved Howard Cosell for his whole life, what he gave to the sport.
Okay, so does anybody else have another quick question before we let Gerry tell us a little bit about where they can,
You're good, Mark. Go ahead.
Okay, so Gerry, tell us where they can get this wonderful book. So Gerry, tell our audience a little bit quickly where they can get this lovely book.
BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon, your local bookstores. And I love to read. I think it took over 5 years to write it out. We had to cut a lot down to get in book size, but here it is right here. You see it right here, right?
Yep.
Look at me. I look the same. Do I look the same?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You better say that. You better say
I
that.
would mention your left hook. Gerry Cooney, thank you so much for being on the Clubhouse.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.